I went on vacation and they sold Las Vegas. Let's talk about it. Hello from Montenegro, from the Mediterranean. I'm on vacation, but tons of news this week, so we are doing a show. Mark and I will also have a show later this week. Very fun, so stay tuned for that. But we will talk about the MGM potential sale later in the show. But one other piece of news that's happening this week is that Cromwell has officially become the Vanderpump Hotel. We've been covering that slowly over the past few months, but the hotel has officially reopened, and you can now stay in one of those beautiful Vanderpump rooms. Now, thanks to Kathy Miller for sending me over this video of the lampshades, the update on what they look like. I like the new lampshades. I do think they add a little bit of contrast there. Perhaps we could have had a little bit more color, but we're nitpicking here. I do like the way the interior of Vanderpump Hotel looks. I have seen some people complain about the carpet, saying that it's too dark, it's weird. We've talked about haunted mansion vibes, so I don't think that this redo is working just for everyone, but it is what it is. Carrie Bilicki did get to stay in one of the rooms, and it looks very much like the concept art. We know that the bathroom is not vastly different, but I really like the way it looks. The materials look very good. I will be staying in one of these rooms later in the month so I can give a more detailed review of what it looks like. But with the news of Caesars being sold, the Rainforest Cafe Hotel is not happening. Vanderpump Hotel is here, and this will be, I think, a really good asset of the new company if Fertitta Entertainment is able to get it. I think a flagship there on the corner, it's going to draw in a lot of people, and I think it's a more female-forward property. We also saw Gigolo's, which is the cocktail garden that opened there as well. Gigolo was Lisa Vanderpump's dog, her Pomeranian, who passed away a few years ago, and the bar is named after him. Very dark, very sexy. You got those cool chairs there. And I think they saved some of the red chairs, the fuzzy chairs from the Cromwell days and put them in the sports book. So that's good too. So go in there and see it. It's a great property. And I do want to stress that this is one of the nicer properties to stay at on the Strip, mainly because of the location and the size. You can park if you're driving, walk in very quickly. It's very quick out to the Strip, not huge walks, a nice, very intimate casino. And I've always enjoyed the experience for that. Mark and I were always split on the rooms before, and I'll get to experience this new product. But now you have a new product on that corner with a different vibe than you're going to get anywhere else. So it's a great place to base yourself, I think, for looking at the Strip, especially if you don't mind that sort of female forward design. I mean, I'm very much a fan of the way this place looks and even the rooms, and I will get to experience them. So happy to see all of that happen. Cromwell has now officially fully transitioned to the Vanderpump Hotel. I want to say anecdotally, I have some comps through this year, and the only hotel I don't have comps for is Nobu. So it does seem like Vanderpump isn't being treated as like a Nobu level hotel. And so they are a little bit more realistic with rates and what they're getting there. So if you're a Caesars person, you should absolutely do it. And while we're talking about the property, just a reminder, this is the best place of all the Caesars properties to park. Very easy to get in and out. Very fun to base yourself there. So that's where I always park, and I will continue to do so. Happy to see Vanderpump Hotel live on. And Kathy, thank you for sending me that. She also sent me this funny picture. I don't know how to introduce this, but the headless man at Park MGM. It's a funny angle. He was okay. She said she got somebody to check on him. So this is nothing wrong, but it said scared the crap out of her as she came up behind. Couldn't see his head, couldn't see his leg. And she sent over that picture. Thanks for sending over all of that. Speaking of sending us pictures, I wanted to show you guys these pictures from High Latitude. He wrote, circa 2003, good times. They also had board characters. He's remembering the Star Trek experience. We talked about Quarks on a recent show. Has a great picture with a Ferengi, also of that onion ring tower. We still haven't figured it out, but I do think that the onion ring tower was invented at Star Trek The Experience. I do not have 100% proof of that, but there you go. A great piece of the past. And of course, the Borg were such a part of that. The Borg invasion that they added on a few years after it opened, it was a separate attraction. So you then had two simulators and you walked through the hallways and the Borg chased after you. It was very scary. Very well done. This was so good. If you didn't get to experience it, very sad that it's not there anymore. And thanks for that. But let's talk Rio for a second. Shout out to Julian from Vegas Confessions. He was over there. He's in town for his 40th birthday. Great follow. Tons of great content. He's always all over the place. Great to see him back in Las Vegas. And he went to the buffet at Rio. We had seen pictures of this before, so a little backstory. Rio is a Hyatt property, and that means that they have to provide certain benefits for Hyatt people, including free breakfast for their top-tier elites, and they were losing a lot of money over the years with Hash House and really nice breakfast, and it became a great benefit for people. And Rio tried many times to figure out how they could cut this back, and they limited menu items, and they did all kinds of things. They even introduced a very, very sad buffet at one point, but now they have this new concept. It's $27, and it's also the free buffet that they will give to Hyatt globalists. And I saw pictures of this a few weeks ago, and it looked really bad, and Julian does a great job of showing you that it is terrible. This is what $27 gets you at Rio. Many people on Twitter said this looks like a free continental breakfast. I don't think that's the case. I don't think this looks like a continental breakfast from a Motel 6 or something like that. It does look like a lower than average business 3-star hotel buffet on the side of a highway, and not really what you would find in Rio. And $27 seems very high for that. Now, many hotels do charge $20, $25 for their buffets, but you have to remember the history of this property, the Carnival World Buffet. When you put in something like this, it's going to get compared, and you get these nasty scrambled eggs with spinach, and there's regular scrambled eggs, a few other things, but it's basic, it's sad, and it's a realization that Rio really couldn't provide the breakfast benefit the way they were. It was probably costing them too much money, and they found a way to do this. And one thing Julian said that shocked me is that he said the vast majority of people in the restaurant were ordering this $27 buffet instead of a $24, $25 entree. Now, remember, of course, the Hyatt people are going to get that buffet. And yeah, it's just not a good look, Rio. I don't know what else you guys should do, but throw some other good things on there. I mean, this is the most uninspired buffet. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this a great replacement for the Carnival World Buffet? Now, like I said, this is just a Hyatt breakfast buffet. And if you saw this in a Hyatt somewhere else, well, I would tell you, I stay in a lot of Hyatts, and this is subpar for that brand. It's another example, though, of Hyatt allowing their properties to lower their standards. Lower, lower, lower. This has happened for many years. A big criticism of mine of Hyatt's, and we will see. But thanks, Julian, for doing that. But let's talk the big news of the week. 2 of the biggest names on the Strip are going private. That is the headline that we are talking about. On the last show, I did talk about Caesars and Tilman Fertitta for Fertitta Entertainment and the bid to take that company private with the same management, and we will see how that all progresses. But it does seem like that one is on track to actually happen, and a lot of synergy, a lot of interesting stuff. But coming into this year, would you have bet that both of the biggest operators in Las Vegas would be taken private? And that is seeming what's going to happen. Barry Diller and his People Incorporated are trying to do this. Now, let's start with looking back a little bit. They've slowly been creeping up their ownership stake in MGM Resorts. They own about 26.1% of the company right now. So they're not coming from the outside and saying, we're going to take over. They are the largest shareholder of MGM Resorts. And with this deal, they are looking to take 50.1% control. But it's a little bit different than that, because the company will be taken private, and the non-binding offer is at $48.30 per share, and MGM stock went way up, so maybe it could be required that they would have to come in with more money. We will see. The board has not approved this offer yet. This is early days, but it is a serious offer. People, of course, a media empire, unlike Fertitta, who's more into hospitality, so it's a different sort of thing. But they have a lot of other investors lined up. So while people own 50.1%, other stakeholders would take over the rest of the company, and it will be private, not traded on the stock exchanges. And that will be a huge shakeup for Las Vegas. Another thing to note about this is that the board will remain in place, and Bill Hornbuckle will remain as the CEO of MGM. So just like with Caesars, we are expecting, if this does happen, and this one is not as far along as the Caesars deal announced last week, we don't have an approval or anything like that. But if this does happen, we would see management stay in place, just like with the other deal. So what's needed for this deal to happen? You're going to need competition clearances. Obviously, gaming boards need to get involved. MGM is a far more international company. They have 2 casinos in Macau. So there is probably more moving parts to this than you have with the Caesars deal, although both are fairly complicated. Financing is all going to be handled internally. So there's no financing condition, all cash and equity from both People and MGM. And that's a huge deal for this company and for this deal, making it pretty clean in order to do it. So why does Diller want MGM? Was he jealous because Tilman Fertitta? I mean, are we living in a world where we have billionaires sort of competing for these assets that they want, these top level, sort of internationally known, reputable assets? It does seem like that. He calls it a rare kind of business with real world assets AI can't replicate, plus digital growth upside in the public market is undervaluing it. He thinks the company's worth far more. We've talked about what is the value of the company without all the land and stuff like that. Diller says, hey, we know this. Now, it's interesting to see when you take a company private, you don't have to have the earnings calls and a lot of the pressures from the public markets, and that allows you to make a lot of different changes. And a lot of people are expecting that this will be an improvement. So let's look at the big picture. MGM will no longer be traded on the stock market. Caesars will no longer be traded on the stock market. Let's imagine a world where both of these deals go through, and that is not set in stone. Either one could fall through. Fertitta Entertainment, like I said, further along with Caesars. MGM hasn't even approved this offer from People, even though, again, People, the largest shareholder, it's pretty much on par, but we may see a higher price than what they've already offered, given how the stock market reacted to the news of this deal. But you're going to have the largest gaming operators in Las Vegas go from being these publicly traded corporations to these private assets owned by the billionaire class, essentially. And there's a lot of talk in the wider politics and everything else about the billionaire class and all of this sort of stuff. So let's put that aside and say this is probably good for Las Vegas, because the markets, the stock market, the need to have better quarterly earnings, the need to get on that earnings report, to nickel and dime everything, that will go away, and they will be able to take a longer vision, a longer term vision on how to make these properties better, how to make it all better. And we will probably see a sale of some assets too, especially with Caesars. As we talked about this last time, you see a mix of assets that doesn't always work together. I think we might see that with MGM too, getting rid of some properties that they don't see as core to their business and just different ownership. But I think it sort of brings us back to a day where you have everything in-house, and it's not going to be the same as the founders being on the strip doing what they do. No, it won't be that. It will be billionaires making decisions about these properties. But I think with the ability to have a longer vision on what's happening and a little bit more control, I think that we will have a better company. And I think we'll have a better strip with MGM and Caesars moving in this direction. In fact, I think this is the best thing to happen to Las Vegas in a long time. I mean, we could have better dream scenarios. We need to get rid of this stupid nonsense that's going on in Las Vegas with the moves that have been made. MGM, I think, is less of an offender than Caesars, and I think the Fertitta deal is just a fantastic thing to happen. I don't think Fertitta is going to save everything. I don't think it's all unicorns and lollipops and whatever the hell that phrase is, but I think that it is an improvement for Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is suffering from the guest experience perspective. Now, we look at those surveys and people do often leave happy because it is a cool place to visit, but the lack of care to the overall guest experience on all levels, the customer service, the way that the casinos view their customer, the way that the customers view the casinos, it's all changed. It's become predatory in some ways. It's become confrontational in some ways, and that is a problem. And I think that this is at least the best opportunity that Las Vegas has. And honestly, I think that both of these billionaires are looking at the overall value in the future if they can transform this, seeing Las Vegas and what it is in the world. But Hornbuckle, his executive team, very popular on Wall Street, unlike the Eldorado team, where I think they've had more struggles. And I would be very curious to see how long the Eldorado Caesars team stays in place under Fertitta. I would expect the MGM executives to stay in place long term. I don't see this as a huge shift in that direction. I do think their priorities will be different, where they don't have to explain every move they're making. I think China is a huge deal here too as well, because Macau is just booming, booming, booming. And their two properties, MGM Cotai and MGM Macau, are incredible properties. MGM Cotai is just fantastic. Jade everywhere. This is a true luxury property. If you're used to going to MGM Grand in Las Vegas, then it's it's weird. MGM Grand in Las Vegas has the flagship name, but the MGM Grands everywhere else are far nicer, and the ones in Macau are just the creme de la creme of the properties. So remember, Bellagio, they have tons of very interesting assets, and then very valuable assets with even Excalibur, Luxor, right by the new stadiums and Allegiant Stadium. So a company with a lot going for it, changing hands. Las Vegas is entering a new era. I think that the 80s brought in the corporate era of Las Vegas. The 2000s brought in another iteration of that. In the last 10 years, we've seen a third iteration of that as everything consolidated down and we saw debt levels rise, the sale off of land. And then now we are entering in yet another phase where we're going to take these companies private and take a whole different stance. Could we potentially see these billionaires try to get the land back for their casinos? That would be amazing. All kinds of future possibilities. This is exciting. And as I sit here, I'm excited to cover it all for you. I would love to know what you guys think about that. What do you think about that Rio $27 buffet? But let me know down below what you think of that. Vanderpump Hotel rooms, are they holding up to what you think? I'll be there in a few weeks to tell you my thoughts. And MGM, Caesars, the future of Las Vegas, this new era that we're headed into. Are you excited? Do you think this is going to be a positive move for Las Vegas, or do you think this is going to be negative to take these companies private and bring them into this new world order? I don't know. Leave a comment down below. Mark and I will be back later this week on Friday with an Unhinged show, a special episode for you guys. So look forward to that. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.